I've probably rewatched the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom gameplay footage now at least 7 or 8 times, looking at every single little thing about it. And this is not going to be an analysis video where I break down every single little change that I've seen, because there's plenty of fantastic content creators that already do that. But in this video, what I'm going to do is talk about some of the weird things that I've heard people say about this game, in addition to some of the stuff that's actually happening with the game sales, and also discuss some of the shocking things that I think that this game will do. I feel that it's very interesting, but first and foremost, let's get one weird thing that's being said about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom out of the way. Nintendo never, Mr. Aonuma never said that it's going to be the exact same map. I've been hearing people, whether it's the Spawncast, whether it's in my own chat, whether it's just on the internet, Twitter, say that it's the same map. This is the reason why it's DLC. This is the reason why it's DLC. This is the reason why it's not a new game, because it's the exact same. There's only just sky areas. And Nintendo never stated that. And to be exact, in the most recent gameplay video, yes, there was a familiar area that we've seen, but they didn't open up the whole map, and they didn't show off every single area, and they didn't say what could potentially happen to that area, especially because we see Link in one outfit, and then we also see Link in his champion's tunic. So clearly something's happened, or something will happen to Hyrule or other places. So Nintendo never detailed any of that. They never detailed any of that, but I want to get into exactly what Mr. Aonuma had to say at the recent gameplay presentation, because it was very quick, but it was right there at the beginning. Quote, "Here we are in the land of Hyrule. Like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, there is a vast world to explore. Of course, it's not just the same world as is. I repeat, of course, it's not just the same world as is. It's changed in many ways. If we talk about all of the changes today, we'll run out of time. So we hope you'll seek them out for yourself when the game launches." So this statement is very telling, because it says what I talked about a little bit before in terms of players, or at least stuff that I've talked about before, players wanting to figure out things themselves and explore and find things themselves, compared to Nintendo spoiling or ruining things and saying, okay, well, this is the reason why it's changed. This is the reason why it's changed, which I completely understand both sides of the coin. Obviously, you want to see cool things, you want to see new stuff, you want them to tell you, okay, this is why this is so much better. Okay, this is why this game is going to be completely different. We've seen sequels come out before, and they have to do just that. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild isn't above that when it comes to games, but you also have to look at the pedigree that Nintendo has with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and what they're doing. And on top of that, you have to look at how the fan base reacts to certain things. And I would say at least 90 to 95%. Now, this is just a guesstimation here, but I would say at least 90 to 95% do not want Nintendo to show off a bunch of different things and show off some stuff that could spoil the game. Heck, I saw that. I remember I showed off one enemy that Nintendo gave to Game Informer, one of the giants in the game in Breath of the Wild, and people literally were posted throughout the whole video in the comments saying that that's a spoiler. Why would you do that? Even though Nintendo officially gave Game Informer that information to share with the fans. So I do think that because of stuff like that, and probably comments they've seen when it comes to all of that, Nintendo is keeping a lot of this close to their chest. However, this whole weird thing that it's the exact same map, that nothing's changed, it's just Skyward Sword style DLC or just Sky Islands, is false. Nintendo's never stated that. They've even said the exact opposite, that Hyrule will change in many ways, and if they went over everything, they would run out of time. And I don't think that just means sky areas. Now, another thing that I've heard people talk about is, oh, okay, well, there's some sky islands, great, but it seems very limited or weird how you get to them with the recall ability. But remember, if you watch the gameplay, Mr. Aonuma has this to say about that. Quote, lots of ways to reach the Sky Islands, so we hope you try a few different methods. Now, this is something that I talked about also on my podcast that I do with the Spawnwave channel, and I talked about how, okay, well, in one trailer, they showed Link, he actually transformed like into water, or at least turned into like water, shapeshifted, and was able to get to a Sky Island that way. So it's not just what they've shown. There are other and a multitude of ways in order to navigate this world. And there's going to be quite a number of different changes, but I think Nintendo's going to be very, very cautious on what they show, when they show, and how they do it to avoid those spoilers, because they want people going into the game fresh. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, it would be great if they showed a bit more, or people would get that, so we can kind of get that whole DLC, Tears of the Kingdom nonsense that is happening out of there. But I think, based off of this most recent gameplay, I think that you can clearly see with the number of improvements that they've kind of already proven that it's not that. Physics and the Q&A that it would take, and I'm telling you, the Q&A, the quality assurance for this game, testing it was probably a nightmare, man. Like, they probably had people up all day testing this because this game would break over and over. But stuff like the weapon fuse that they have in there, mechanics like the Ultra Hand, and what they're doing with the mechanics with building different types of vehicles or different ways, that's the type of stuff that would take you years to develop. Those are the type of things that are absolutely not in the DLC type of range. Those are completely new physics and mechanics that you would have to build into a game that you're not just going to release. Because remember, guys, Breath of the Wild had DLC. It had DLC, and it's called the Champions Ballad. And the Champions Ballad has nothing, is nowhere near the level of content in terms of everything that this game is going to be offering. So I think that this whole just Breath of the Wild DLC just pretty much is dead at this point. I don't really think it holds any type of merit afterwards, which I discussed a bit, but I wanted to kind of go over it just because I went back and looked at the gameplay footage and looked at everything that they were doing there, and also what Nintendo said, and it's not lining up with this whole, it's the same map. It's not lining up with, oh, there's nothing new, or it's the same Hyrule, or it's all of that. They've literally said completely different. So that's the reason why I wanted to talk about it a bit more. Now, let's talk about some other things where it's more a bit shocking when it comes down to what Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom will do. Now, I personally feel that there's quite a number of crazy different types of areas and locations and things that can even transform Hyrule. I really feel that. Based off of some of the analysis videos that I've watched, you have the Zonai charges that you see there. So obviously there is quite a bit of deep lore and things in this game that they are holding so close to their chest, but they want you as a player to go out there, seek yourself, go out there, find it, and be shocked, be amazed, be wowed. Now, will it be something that can shock and amaze you as much as maybe the original Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild? Probably not. Might be difficult to do that for some people, considering it's a completely different style of Zelda game that we've ever gotten, and this is a follow-up. Kind of like how people were shocked or maybe amazed with Ocarina of Time, and then when Majora's Mask came out, it's the same style of visuals, very different game, same style of visuals, and you can be enthralled or happy or shocked with some of the stuff that happens, but visually you don't get that same shock. But I do feel that in this game, because they're not spoiling it, because they are keeping things close to their chest, you're going to find things in this game that's going to shock and amaze you, because we're so used to games being spoiled beforehand. Square Enix, they are the masters of this, showing off end parts of games, showing off various different trailers that just completely spoil certain scenes or different things. I think that we're used to that. Now, Nintendo did a great job with Breath of the Wild before that game launched, and not spoiling some of the different things that were in this game, some of the different elements, the weapons. There were so many things that I went into that game and I'm like, wow, I didn't see that before. Wow, that's something new. Oh my gosh, look at this location. And I think there's definitely a vocal minority of gamers out there that want so many things to be spoiled. But I think that that's not the case with this game. That's not happening with Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which is awesome, because I think that with all the different abilities here, with the fuse, with the Ultra Hand, with the recall, there's going to be so many puzzles, gameplay sequences, combat, and potential really cool set pieces and things that can be done in this game that there's no need for us to see beforehand. Just show us exactly what the tools are, some of the new gimmicks, which they did, and then let our imaginations run wild. Don't show everything with it. Now, there could be a Zelda Direct that people have been rumoring. Nintendo Prime, there's been other content creators that have also mentioned a Zelda Direct, which is fine. If they want to have a Zelda Direct, they want to maybe show like a sky dungeon or an underground dungeon or a regular place or something else that's going to mix up the gameplay a bit more, cool. I have no problem with that. If they didn't show anything more at this point, cool. I have no problem with that because the game is doing absolutely incredible. And that's another shocking thing maybe to some people about this, because some people feel the marketing isn't great. But if you look at the actual pre-orders, if you look at what's happening, this game is tracking to have a absolutely monster launch. Definitely bigger than Splatoon, which that game sold 10 million units in a few months on the market. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, that sold 20 million units in about a month and a half. I'm thinking that Tears of the Kingdom could be in between those two games when it comes to time on the market and its sales. Definitely 10 million plus within the first month, maybe even more. It's tracking just to have a monster launch. So I think that might be shocking to a lot of people, but also the Nintendo Switch. Tears of the Kingdom puts the Switch in a situation that no other system in the history of the gaming industry, to my knowledge, when it comes to everything that I know, no other system has been this popular in terms of sales this late in the life. Now, so much is talked about, oh, sales in Japan, or oh, what's going on here, the sales are dipping. But if you look at it overall, with the Switch being in its 6+ year on the market, and the fact that it's still topping software sales and still topping hardware sales in multiple different regions with various different games, that right there tells you that Tears of the Kingdom not only is boosting things, but the fact that the Switch has been able to endure this long in its life. No other Nintendo system has ever been this successful this late in its life with the install base that it has. Remember, the Nintendo Wii, that is Nintendo's other best-selling home console of all time, that was pretty much done by year 4, year 5-ish. By the time that Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword came out, the Wii was already on its way out. People were thinking about the Wii U. It was already done, which did lead to lower sales for the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. But with the Nintendo Switch, are people talking about the next gen system? Yeah, people are, but the regular Nintendo Switch right now at this point, and the Switch OLED, Switch Lite, those are all still selling okay in various different regions. It's still charting in the second spot behind the PlayStation 5, which is having a big year. It's still charting right there and above Xbox Series in many different regions, which is a new system. So to me, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom having this type of game has extended the life of the Nintendo Switch, along with other games out there like Pokemon and also Splatoon, Xenoblade. All those did a great job last year, but to see something like this, that's kind of shocking to me. I never would have thought that a Nintendo system like this could last and be this popular for this long, because we just don't see it with Nintendo systems, even their most popular systems. I mean, the only system that you can even think about that potentially lasted that long with the sales that the system has is the Nintendo DS, and that's Nintendo's best-selling system of all time. And the Nintendo DS, it was a monster. That was before the smartphone era, right? So Nintendo got a lot of those sales that now go to just the app stores, right? And people buying the iDevices and tablets and smartphones and all of that. So it's a little bit of anomaly, a little bit of something that you probably will never be able to recreate, because Nintendo had to combine their home console and their portable in order to get the sales up as high as it is right now at this point. So I think that for that makes the Nintendo Switch one of the most impressive systems, because it's not fighting power for power, even with the last generation systems with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It's weaker than those, but it's got an ace up its sleeve with the portable nature, the hybrid nature of the system, in addition to a bunch of games, tons and tons of fantastic games across the board in a variety of genres. So to me, that's a bit shocking, but at the same time, it's something that Nintendo's been able to curate and make sure that they keep going. And I think that Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, even it being announced in 2019 and people anticipating, help keep sales along and help keep sales along all the way up until this point. So very interesting. Tears of the Kingdom is holding a lot of weight on its back in terms of having to be good, but I think it's going to deliver in every single aspect once we get the game. But we're gonna have to wait and see fully, right? It's coming out next month though. It'll be here before you even know it. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. Also check out some of my other Legend of Zelda content here on the channel and more. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next video. Peace.